As a traveler, you always have to be positive and you can never talk about bad things, but this has been the biggest letdown front to back. Good morning, or should I say good afternoon. We're in Turkey. This is our last couple days here, 48 hours really until we take off. And we've been here for a month solely for this specific reason, and that is the World Nomad Games. Now, if you don't know what the World Nomad Games are, you've probably never heard of them. They're like the Olympics for Central Asian nomadic peoples. And this is something that has been on my bucket list for a long time, specifically because I love, Genghis Khan, the history of the Mongols, how these tribesmen basically created one of the biggest empires the world has ever known. And this entire event is basically showcasing the abilities that conquered the world. So super, super jazzed to be here. Wish it started this morning like the website said it did. So it's currently at 11:30, we're here at the gates and everyone's just waiting here. I don't think we're allowed in. I don't think it's open, even though the first games on the website, which were updated 3 days before it actually started, said 8 a.m. for the first event. You can see all the people behind me. Just waiting.
It is now 11:45 a.m. and the lovely Americans online with us said they're probably not going to start for another hour. It is so hot here right now. There are so many people standing in line. So at some point you have to be so glad that you have a rental car, because we are. And now we're just sitting in the car waiting until we see people flood in and we can go and get started. So World Nomad Games 2022, hope it's awesome.
It will be. All right, an hour and a half later, we finally made it in. Security was actually pretty light. We're pumped, getting our energy back up after sitting in the car for a bit. It's hot.
We are ready.
We're ready though.
Hadi bari.
Although it looks like there's a second security. Actually, this is our third security. All right, I'm through. Bree's still in line if you can't see. That was security number 3, but I think we're good now. So hopefully we can maybe see a game. I don't really know if anything started yet because the schedule is a little off online, but we'll see.
We're gonna watch Kokwaram, but it's non-existent, and once again, no one has any idea what's going on, and there's no players on the field. It's actually really sad because the players here are such incredible athletes. You can see it in their preparations, even though they haven't played yet. And we really were so excited to watch them do anything, really, but we haven't been able to manage to get any kind of event, and there's no schedule and there's no update online. And when we ask security or the people working here what the next event is or what we can do, no one has any clue. So it's unfortunate. It's our only day here.
So I know, as a traveler, you always have to be positive and you can never talk about bad things, but this has been the biggest letdown front to back. I mean, the organization has been terrible, and I knew even that the one in Kyrgyzstan, the organization was loose, so to speak, but I mean, there's no cohesive idea of exactly what you're supposed to do and where you're supposed to be. So we got caught on the other side of this gate. The opening ceremony is 2 gates away. We had to walk like a mile to get around to the right place, and they're just not letting anyone through. We met these Dutch people who had been waiting there for over an hour, and they just gave up. They said their friends were even 1 gate past us, security gate, and they're not letting them through. So if you wanted to go to the opening ceremony, there's just no chance. And it's just extremely frustrating because it's just been chaos wall to wall. They didn't meet the schedule that they set. The events were kind of like thrown together. It seemed last minute. It's just been a big thumbs down for me. I would honestly, if it was held back here again, I wouldn't come. I would wait to do it in Kyrgyzstan and Mongolia for sure. It's a bit of a bummer. I know this stuff happens when you travel, but it's always disappointing when it does, especially when it didn't seem to need to be this way. I mean, there are tons of crowds here. I don't know why they just didn't sell tickets, you know? Instead they made it a free-for-all and then just locked people out who weren't at the right place at the right time.
Now that we've had a minute to breathe being back at our hotel room, we couldn't just leave it with we're frustrated that we were corralled and not able to get into the opening ceremonies. We wanted to go into a little bit more detail. This has been something, in case we haven't made it quite clear, that we have spent the last 30 days in Turkey for, and not even the last 30 days. We wouldn't have started our world trip in Europe if it hadn't been for the World Nomad Games. This is so far up Jeff's bucket list that we had to make it happen, and we committed to coming, and we wasted a lot of money. Not wasted, it was still a good learning experience throughout Turkey, but it wasn't our first choice. We would have moved on to Southeast Asia at this point. When we came to the festival, obviously we were frustrated being that it was supposed to open at 8 a.m. and it didn't open until 12:30 p.m. But nothing was open in terms of events. All of the athletes were visibly confused. Security, the people that worked there, nothing was in order and nobody could answer our questions. So we ended up wandering around and roasting for about 3 hours, not having really seen any events with the exception of horseback archery, which we couldn't even really see because they only made it so that one set of bleachers could be sat in. People were constantly walking in front of us and we couldn't even see the performers, the athletes, we couldn't see the arrows, we couldn't see anything. Having been roasted, sunburnt, frustrated, we left to get a bite to eat, drink a water, head to our hotel room, just take a break for a little bit. We then headed back with the idea that we were going to the opening ceremonies and we couldn't. And not just us, it was thousands and thousands of people who couldn't get into the opening ceremonies, performers included, athletes included. Nobody could really get in. And lo and behold, it's because the president of Turkey had decided to come to the World Nomad Games. We had seen a lot of security while we were here, and we had gone through about 4 or 5 checkpoints at any given moment, but we didn't realize it was because of this, which made it a little bit more difficult.
Really, the main frustration that we have is that there just wasn't any sort of way to really know. I mean, we were there. We could have just stayed in the stadium, grabbed a seat, and just waited. And originally when I'd read, I thought tickets were going to be $50 a pop to the opening ceremony, which is a lot, but whatever. I mean, it guarantees your seat. I totally get it. But that wasn't the case. Everything was free, which was great, you know, especially now because we didn't really get to do much. So we don't feel like we wasted any money. And I mean, you could walk by and see the backs of the stadium and it was like half full. And they weren't letting anyone in. And it was just a little frustrating because they didn't even have like jumbotrons or like big TVs set up, but they had put a lot of like production value into like the area itself. So it's something that they easily could have done. They just completely overlooked. So if you weren't in there, I mean, you couldn't see anything. I saw some guy in front of me who was also stuck outside with us in the massive crowd of people. He was watching it on Instagram. So it was just like, I mean, I was kind of watching what was going on inside the stadium, but it was just a little frustrating that we put so much effort into trying to make this work and it was just impossible. It feels like all the odds were stacked against us, kind of.
Not only that, but had we stayed and decided to get seats in the stadium with intentions of going to the opening ceremony very early on, even if one of us had gotten up to go to the bathroom or grab water for the other, we wouldn't have been able to get back in. A lot of people said that their friends were corralled in a different area with other people that had been stuck at the gate for hours. So overall, it was just such a letdown, and we understand the importance of being travel influencers, and it's necessary to always be positive because things aren't always going to go your way. However, in this situation, I do feel it's important to be transparent.
So yeah, I mean, even though it was a bit of a letdown, I think what we're going to do, we've decided is we've already wanted to spend some more time in Central and East Asia. So we're going to hit up Mongolia, most likely in Nadam, which is like their national festival in August, which has a lot of the events that we were looking to go see anyway. And I think with less people, maybe less like clout around it, you know, this was probably a big event for Erdogan to host. It'll probably just be a little smoother, a little more chill, and we'll actually get the experience that we were looking for.
So if any of you out there came to the World Nomad Games in Turkey in September of 2022, let us know your experience because I'm just wondering how it happened for other people. But thank you for watching. We'll catch you next time.